Hello, everybody, and welcome to Action and Adventure, the Hasbro Universe podcast. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm your other host, Callum. Host.
You want to do that again?
No, that's fine.
And we are here today to bring you the latest and the greatest comics from the IDW Hasbro universe. Today we'll be talking about Transformers vs. Visionaries number 4 and ROM, Tales of the Soulstar Order. And we'll also be talking a little bit about the unreleased issues of Scarlet Strike Force that never got produced. But until then, Callum, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. And, let me refresh the IDW news page again, because as we're recording this, there's currently an IDW panel at C2E2, but so it's not being live tweeted by anyone, and so far the only press release that's gone out is that they're doing a Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons crossover comic. But yeah, that is thankfully outside our purview.
Yes.
Very, very firmly outside.
Yes, we do not talk Dungeons and Dragons except for that one time. Although I have played Dungeons and Dragons since then.
Yeah.
I've gotten in on a group and all that, so I've been getting more into it. Let's start with the Scarlet Strike Force stuff, since that's kind of since that's not really comics, it's more would technically be news.
Yeah.
So, in case you haven't heard, Aubrey Sitterson recently shared his outline of his Scarlet Strike Force number 4, the script for it rather, as well as the issue breakdown, essentially what the rest of the series was going to be. And this kind of clues us in on kind of where the direction of the book was going to go after the cancellation of it at issue 3 with the massive cliffhanger of Cobra flying into space.
It was honestly better than I thought, because I thought the issue 3 cancellation was going to be like partway through a trade paperback, but it turned out to be the end of a trade paperback, so there was sort of a slight sense of conclusion, but then also Cobra have launched a bit. Well, I guess, at the time, and I guess this comes up as well with this news as well, because as well as the issue 4 script, Aubrey Sitterson has been posting all the previous scripts. And the script for issue 3 does clarify that what happened at the end of issue 3 was that a big, full-sized kind of moon rock thing was launched up out of the ground and I guess entered orbit. It's not specific if it is literally in orbit or just floating magically, but yeah, the point is that they didn't shrink or anything, and it was just sort of really vague with the art. The script actually specifies that, oh yes, you see trees falling and dinosaurs falling off the edge and the earth cracks, but it's not really any of it there in the issue, because Crystal Balls was holding a small rock which looked pretty much the same. It felt a bit like, did they shrink onto the rock because they were shrinking at the start of the story? But no, it was just supposed to be a small clump of the same mysterious big rock thing that was launched into the sky.
Yeah.
And then in issue 4, they built a Terradrome on it.
Yeah, so somehow they were able to actually build an entire Terradrome on there. Yeah. Which is just a base that is a moon. Cobra, I love that line from Cobra Commander.
Yeah, it's just unapologetically silly, and I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, this kind of, this thing, this kind of gives us a bit more insight into where the series was going to go for because basically if you haven't read it for yourself, you can go over to Aubrey Sitterson's Patreon and pledge just $2, and you'll be able to access all the outlines and scripts. And one thing I've actually been meaning to do is go back and read some of the scripts for the issues that got released, the previous Joe series, but I haven't really gone around to it. One thing
they're all first drafts, I believe he said. So yeah, there are some dialogue differences and things, I think.
Yeah. And one thing I think that's really that's kind of interesting about reading the issue 4 script is that it seems like in a lot of ways that kind of like new characters that were introduced in the first in the first story arc kind of like get kind of sidelined in like for the second half in a lot of ways. Like Friday just kind of gets like, oh yeah, well, he's just gonna be chilling watching kung fu movies, and like Spectrum doesn't really get to do much once everybody goes off to the moon base and all that.
Yeah, that I won't begrudge, because it is very obvious that Matt Tracker being there was basically IDW still wants Mask around somehow, and so Aubrey Citizen has to sort of like reluctantly like sits him in the corner for the G.I. Joe comic.
Yeah. Well, and there's even like lines in the outline that implies that Venom was going to be like, they like was originally supposed to be in the issues, but honestly I'm kind of like, but then of course they're not in the script for issue 4, which kind of like honestly works better for those, I feel like, for those characters, especially because given their fate at the end of the First Strike one-shots.
Yeah, they ended up in prison.
They were in prison. Although it would be hilarious, because it would mean that this was basically a running gag of Spectrum being shown to be imprisoned and then miraculously getting out for the next story. What with the Mask Annual and stuff like that. But, like, also, I feel like that kind of, keeps Venom in this kind of position of idiots who Cobra Commander couldn't actually be bothered with, except for
they're a bunch of schmucks.
Yeah, they really are. So, yeah.
Like Venom, really. Like, Bruno Shepard is just an idiot, basically. Like, Slyrax is a sort of a creepy idiot, and Vanessa Warfield is a crazy person. You're not missing out on a lot by leaving them in prison.
Well, I honestly, having read the Mask issues multiple times for wiki purposes, I will say Bruno is probably the character, like the Venom member, with the most potential for an interesting kind of story. Well, like, because he like clearly like has this whole like mechanic expertise, and his friendship with Matt could have been really good, and the whole tragedy there could have been really good. I'm saying that, like, there's potential. Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't really done very well, but, the potential was there.
Who hates Matt Fracker more, Bruno Shepard or Matt Fracker?
I think the answer is us.
Yeah, no, it's third off.
But yeah, let's see. Issue 4 also would have seen Skywarp and teaming up with Snake Eyes, Helix, and Duke to be the, G.I. Joe Renegades.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's
basically.
No, I guess they're both still like official. I guess it's basically just like, it's G.I. Joe International versus, G.I. Joe American flavor, original.
Yeah, well, that's
G.I. Joe original.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, because like this was actually something before. Like I read this. I even had the idea of, what would be an amazing thing for like a story. Do the G.I. Joe Renegades, where Duke is leading a team of Snake Eyes, Helix, Beachhead, and Grunt. Basically, all the Joes that that got pissed off with Scarlet, they just went over to Duke and just became like their own separate thing. But yeah, let's see.
Yes, because it's interesting reading some of kind of Citizen's notes, like on kind of the Patreon post as well, and like he does explicitly say what kind of we kind of noticed in the first 3 issues is that he was making a deliberate effort to sort of kind of to address the kind of like sameness that a lot of people picked up on in kind of the original G.I. Joe run. So like the fact that the first 3 issues of Scarlet Strike Force, each one had its kind of own thing, almost like the first issue had like the army ants and stuff. The second issue was primarily dinosaurs, and then the third issue was primarily the sort of like Cobra ritual and stuff. It was sort of him deliberately trying to sort of up the pace of things a little. And that's kind of borne out in these outlines, but also kind of not. Like issue 4's thing is the Joes all start fighting because actually no, was that more of issue 5's thing? Yeah, no, it happens at the end.
Yeah, it starts at the it definitely starts in like in issue 4. Especially because there's like that whole moment where Shipwreck calls up Gung Ho and is like,
oh yeah,
and Gung Ho's like, I just need some space, man. I hate when there's a lover's quarrel.
But Dr. Mindbender, because Dr. Mindbender gets to do some stuff.
Dr. Mindbender, yeah.
Because he actually appeared before like the end of issue 3.
He was he was at the end of issue 9. He was like with.
Oh yeah, no, he was in that group shot, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in that group shot with everyone else, and then he went to Cybertron, and then he evidently came back or something. But Destro was also seen to be chained up, and then
who knows what's going on with Destro?
Yeah,
or Storm Shadow 2, or
yeah.
Who knows?
Still don't love that name.
Destro alone, you could have just said, oh yeah, like one of the Destros was like a remote controlled sort of like it was a bat that looked like Destro, and he was remote controlling it or something. But you can't really pull that with people who don't have a metal face so much.
No. But yeah, so basically, as the outline goes on, it basically the moon base turns out to be like an egg for Golobulus, and
I totally called that. I mean, it's not that hard to call, but I did call that before it happened, so I was pleased with myself a bit for getting.
Yeah, and so basically the whole thing. I will say this about the outline is once it gets to the second half of the series, we basically do kind of reach this point where it's like it's like very decompressed kind of, because it's basically just a lot of them fighting with Cobra and then fighting Golobulus and all that.
It is.
And basically Golobulus just becomes a kind of a giant monster. No real. I mean, not that I expected a ton of not that I expected a ton of character, but he's basically from what is described in this outline, he's basically just a giant kaiju rather than any kind of actual intelligent deity or any kind of intelligent creature or anything like that. So
actually, yeah, because I do remember thinking that I couldn't remember whether it was specified at all in the described directly in the issues whether Golobulus was looked like he did in Real American Hero, because a lot of this series has very notably just done a bunch of characters looking exactly like they did in Real American Hero, or whether he is just a big snake monster.
Yeah, see, to me it seemed like he was just where's the line? Yeah, Golobulus. Yeah, because it says before she can get there, Golobulus finishes unfurling and opens its jaws, into which Crystal Ball willingly falls. So to me, I was really just thinking a giant snake monster, not even the Golobulus that we saw in that one issue. I forget the issue number, but it's when Serpentor is telling the religion of the coil,
So it isn't like
Ooh, yeah,
it wasn't quite called Globulus in that, was it? It was like, wasn't it done like it was spelt differently or something to try and be like slightly sensible?
Was it? Let me look up.
Yeah, Golabulus. Yeah, I think it was like the middle issue of the of that Cobra arc that was about the coil. I mean, yeah, it's a shame like they couldn't really have been that. Yeah, there wasn't really any ties back to that, but kind of Citizens IDW Joe has sort of unrepentantly been sort of its own thing, so like it's not surprising.
Yeah, and honestly, it's hard to know if like we would even be using the Cobra Law stuff. That's one thing I want to know is like whether not just the Fatal Fluffies, but the Globulus stuff was in fact kind of a reworking of the Inhumanoids idea.
Oh,
or
yeah.
If potentially Globulus was going to be an Inhumanoid, like one of the Inhumanoids. I think that would have, like, either one would have been really interesting, but sadly,
yeah,
we'll never see.
Okay, no, yeah, in that Cobra issue, yeah, he is kind of the Coil's deity is Golabulus, and he is the kind of like half man, half snake thing from Real American Hero.
Yeah.
Like I like part of me does want to imagine just like a giant like half man, half snake thing hatching out of the moon and then just like eating people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as written it is probably Globulus, the big snake monster. Which is like, yeah, it's cool. It's like, only there's a Doctor Who episode, isn't there, where like the original moon is a big monster egg. But yeah, no, it's a shame. It's a shame that we couldn't have got these as actual comics, because from what we've read, we can read a bit now. It does sound pretty fun.
Yeah, and I do love the fun denouement at the end. As Susan says. Like
Master and Raptor trying to rob a bank with dinosaurs or something similarly stupid.
Yeah, that would have been great. But yeah, I'm interested to see how, like, if this stuff gets tied up in any other way, like, if Barber takes the, and does something with this, basically like says, oh yeah, all this happened. I'm surprised, that no one was really paying attention to it or nothing, something like that. I don't know, but I think that'd be fun. But yeah, so it's kind of everything on Scarlet Strike Force. It's
because what? No, yeah, because I just think like the resolution to Quick Kick and Storm Shadows thing would have just apparently been the like Quick Kick kind of slightly wins and knocks out a couple of Storm Shadows' teeth, and that's their thing done. There's not really a lot done with Storm Shadow 2 / Tempest in the outlines. Like she teams up on Quick Kick with original flavor Storm Shadow, and that's about it. It's like,
yeah, which honestly kind of makes me wonder why Sitters didn't even bothered including her in the first place.
It's yeah, there is no clear reason for her to be there.
Yeah. But hey, it is what it is. Alrighty. So, shall we move on to talking Transformers vs. Visionaries?
Yes, let's.
Alrighty. So, Transformers vs. Visionaries number 4, Good Men. Callum, what did you think of this issue?
Yeah, like certainly kind of it's a lot more interesting than last issue. It's sort of we've got past that middle, and we're sort of things are all getting a bit climactic and interesting, and Yeah, no, it's sort of better than last issue, and sort of pretty enjoyable, all things considered. Like it's not blowing anyone's minds, I don't think, but it's a perfectly decent comic. The art continues to be nice, and sort of the plot is ticking along kind of fair pace. Still not really matching up at all very much with First Strike, but that's just how
that's to be expected at this point, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, the Spectral Knights are like not really great at sort of not switching teams. Like, how many is it at this point?
Yeah. The moment where, I'll be honest, that really, like, I really found that moment to be kind of stupid, where Arzon, like, turns, because, like, it really does not endear me to the Spectral Knights as a group. When last issue you show, like, Cryotech and Feral, like, and a bunch of these guys joining up with the Darkling Lords, and then you have one of the few Spectral Knights that was whole thing was, hey, yeah, let's go with Leoric, and then it's like, wow, these guys are all assholes. I mean, this is already on top of, the fact that they were going to friggin' assassinate someone, but, it's like, I could get over that because, they're at war and all that, and whatever. But it's just like, it is.
I mean, I've got to say, like,
dumb. Like,
the Prismosians are kind of proving Megatron right in his whole, we gotta wipe out all the organics before they wipe us out. It's like, it takes the Prismosians are apparently all racist enough against mechanicals that, like, a 5-minute chat will have them, like, up for committing genocide against them, so.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and, like the thing I also didn't really like about the scene is, like, Merklin's whole thing, like, back in, like, even I know this as someone who's barely seen anything original Visionaries, like, his whole thing was the fact that he was kind of a neutral character. He wasn't good, he wasn't evil, he had his own ambitions, and he used the Spectral Knights and the Darkling Lords to further that along, but he was kind of in it for, like, himself. He wasn't really, like, fully, like, malevolent. And this one, like, I kind of thought it was going to go that way with, like, him, saying, yeah, Viralina, yeah, sure, but we need you, Arzon, and all that. And then it just was like, no, you just joined up with the Darkling Lords.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's consistent with the fact that he's Krieger, who was, like, super evil and racist against mechanical people, but it's sort of, he basically might as well be a Darkling Lord on this.
Yeah. Although, speaking of Krieger, okay, so I was reading back through Revolutionaries the other day. There's a scene where Krieger loses his arm. Like, he loses his robot arm.
Oh, yeah, his robot arm comes off, yeah. It's an illusion.
Oh, that was such a stupid twist.
Yeah.
Such a stupid twist. Anyways, yeah. I'll be honest, I really didn't find that issue, like, this issue, I thought it was just kind of, like, I'm just really getting tired of this series. I'm tired of the whole, good guys betraying their comrades, and, the whole, like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I have any attachment to Quick Switch like some people are doing, because I don't give a shit about Quick Switch at all. But still, it's just another death in this book, like, on top of Cup. And yeah, he's not dead, but he's still, like, basically been reduced to a non-entity in the form of Waspinator. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like there should be more from this series than we've been getting. Like, we haven't even really gotten any. Like, I think we still don't really have any background on the Visionaries themselves. Like, it kind of, we have to presume that something similar to the TV series happened, but outside of, like, Merklin going into the whole creation myth of that Prismos has, which admittedly is some interesting world building. But outside of that, there's no real we don't really know what the history, much of the history of Leoric and the Spectral Knights and the Darkling Lords as characters themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this since issue 1, but this series absolutely feels like it is a follow-up to a bunch of previous IDW Visionaries comics that don't exist. It's kind of weird like that.
Yeah. I don't know, it's
one thing that I thought was kind of cute in a sort of a stupid way, I don't know, I genuinely did like it, is that they could apparently phone call each other on their shields, and the person who's calling Totem comes up on it. Cute.
Yeah, that was cool. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it's just I don't know. I've just reached the point where I'm like, this I'm. It's not that I this series doesn't quite make me as actively angry as something like Mask or something, but I've just kind of reached the point where I'm like, more. I feel like more should have happened in 4 issues than has, and what has happened hasn't been all that interesting, quite frankly. So, I don't know. I feel like I've been on the fence, and I've been very hopeful about the way this series has gone, but I'm kind of just I'm out of steam as far as this goes. I'm just waiting for it to end.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I am not hopeful about issue 5 because we haven't yet had the Unicron connection that editorial is being, oh yeah, if you want a teaser of the upcoming Unicron event, you should be picking up Transformers vs. Visionaries, and that's not happened yet. So I feel pretty confident that Transformers vs. Visionaries 5 is going to be the new First Strike 6. But also, there's also a part of me is just some random Unicron setup is probably going to be a bit more interesting, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, I do find myself I was thinking about this the other day. I do wonder to what degree this has changed at all, or kind of messed with at all, Barber's plans for the Talisman, because it's not technically confirmed, but I have to assume that the Talisman has some part in Barber's Onyx Prime story beyond what we had in mentioned briefly in Revolutionaries 8. I assume it is going to come up in the Falling interlude where we get the secret history of Onyx Prime. So yeah, I do wonder how the stuff in Visionaries has sort of affected that, if at all. I mean, maybe it's not.
Yeah,
but I don't know, it's weird.
I mean, you gotta think that even if this was not what Barber had planned for the Talisman, you've gotta imagine that he can recover it. Kind of recover it. I mean, just because but yeah, I mean, I'm still. Here's what I'd predict if I was a betting man. I feel like, yeah, you'd be right that Transformers vs. Visionaries 5 is basically going to pull a First Strike 6, and the Talisman is going to serve some kind of purpose to the Unicron stuff, just because that's where everything has been pointing. Everything since Onyx's line in Revolutionaries number 8 has really been pushing that way. So
yeah, I mean, my first thought was always the Talisman, but my theory for the Talisman for a while has been that kind of the Talisman was created by sort of an alliance of kind of ancient races to fight Unicron, time travelers and the Dire Wraiths and the ancient Prismosians, and all got together and built a thing to fight Unicron with, and that's why Talismagic is so great at killing Transformers. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, back when the Talisman was first kind of back when we first knew Visionaries was happening and the Talisman, like, was, there was a connection between the Talisman and the Visionaries and all that. It really, like, I was pretty convinced that they would do something to tie Onyx Prime's Beast Formers in with the Prismosians' transformations.
Yeah.
And that really hasn't happened, you know? I mean, not that I want the whole, like, Onyx Prime was the progenitor of the, maybe I don't want the whole Micronus thing where, Micronus creating the Micronauts, okay, that's interesting, that works, it's, I don't want Primes to be responsible for all of the different franchises, of course. But I feel like there could have been something there, like, either, like, Onyx hid the talisman on Prismos, and that's how people used it and discovered magic, and that's how they were able to channel the, animals and all that. I don't know, and I feel like if they don't do that, that'll be a real waste, quite frankly.
Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like it's very possible that sort of the talisman's connection to the Visionaries, and potentially even the fact that the energies of the talisman are magic, basically has nothing to do with it as it was originally conceived and was basically tacked on by edited to bring a connection to Visionaries. Because the talisman's whole thing in Revolutionaries was doing stuff with technology.
Yeah, I mean, its whole kind of, I mean, yeah, it's like literally it brought a bunch of robots to life. Like, yeah.
Actually, here is an idle talisman-related thought I had earlier today. If just the stuff inside, if talisman energy is basically sort of standard issue Hasbro Universe magic, is that the same kind of magic that the Dire Wraiths use? And if it is, did the Dire Wraiths used to look more like normal kind of aliens, but then they ended up looking all hideous by abusing magic, because we know that the talisman magic can mutate people to look like Dire Wraiths.
Ooh, that
is the Dire Wraiths looking like hideous monsters? They're sort of their curse for abusing dark magics and so on and so forth. Like, I doubt that is any kind of intent, but it's a fun headcanon.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that headcanon. That's interesting. It would explain, like, kind of why there's the Dire Wraith, whatever, like, little tendrils in there, and like how it can turn people into Dire Wraiths. That would be, or Dire Wraith-esque creatures. That would be interesting. Of course, what would also be interesting is if they explored that, like, talisman energy could, like, protect either could reverse Dire Wraith-ism, or could, like, burn out Dire Wraith infection or something like that.
Yeah, because in thinking about that as well, I also wondered, did she doesn't? I guess actually she doesn't use it in the one issue of Scarlet Strikeforce she's in, but did the, like, counterwave thing that Metro Titan broadcast in Revolutionaries 8 also get rid of all the red shadows by Dire Wraith body modding? Interesting question.
Well, we know Storm Shadow still had it in still had those powers in First Strike.
Oh wait, has in First Strike, doesn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say some of the other Red Shadows used it in, like, the Optimus Prime tie-in, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, this has basically just evolved into us talking about interesting headcanons, because...
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's probably the best comment we can make on Transformers vs. Visionaries number 4 at this point.
Yeah.
Is the fact that we are much more interested in thinking about Revolutionaries and how it ties into other books.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what happens in issue 5.
I mean, yeah, like we're at the penultimate issue. Let's see what happens. But I was really holding out hope that this could be a great series, and it just has just been kind of mediocre for them.
I don't have any kind of new faves from the series. None of the Visionaries have particularly sort of become particularly attached to any of them. Wheeljack's in it. I like Wheeljack.
Yeah,
that's because of this series. And I don't really have anything else to say. Leoric, I guess, is he's nice, I guess.
He has gotten screen time more than anyone else.
And Virulina's she's evil, but also kind of stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, she is not the brightest bulb in the socket.
I did like that this issue essentially admits that, in universe, Virulina is also being used as a schmuck here by Merklin.
Yeah.
I forgot Merklin's name for a second. But yeah, no, it's beyond issue 1's editorial stuff. This series hasn't really been bad, but it hasn't really it's not really done a lot to make itself stand out either. It's just
it hasn't really done anything interesting with the Visionaries to really make them endearing. It hasn't really done interesting or new with the Transformers mythology. It has just kind of been.
I will say that
its wheels, quite frankly.
The whole the Prismosian kind of creation myth thing was interesting. That was probably the most interesting bit in this issue.
Yeah, that was interesting, and the more I think about this series, the more I feel like it probably would have worked so much better as either a standalone Visionaries series where we're dealing with the Visionaries on their own, or it would have worked better if it was the Transformers going to Prismos.
it would have been a very different story because you wouldn't have done the sort of weird is it a refugee story or is it a kind of colonialism, racism story or what?
Yeah, but the fact is, those two ideas clash and don't really work in this series anyway. So
it's so we keep talking about this each issue, but just there's not there's no shades of grey. It is just that half of the characters are racist, and but it's basically all the bad guy Prismosians are basically being Joe Colton and being super racist against Transformers. I think you are right that the Transformers go to Prismos would have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah, especially because then you could have it be something where, and I'm just spitballing, either they go to Prismos because it has some sort of connection to the because it has a connection to the talisman or something, or tie it into the colony worlds or something.
Oh, see, my pitch. I think I posted on the Allspark way back, but my pitch for connecting the Visionaries to the Transformers was make Prismos an ex-Decepticon infiltration target, and when they were sort of part way through the infiltration protocols, the Decepticons got recalled to Cybertron to go fight Thunderwing, so about a few hundred years ago. And as they left, or maybe just before they left, and then they never got to follow up or whatever, they set off an EMP that wiped out all technology across the planet.
Yeah, that could
And then, and then the last part of it was that Merklin's kind of mountaintop castle, where the Visionaries all kind of go to earn their magical powers and stuff, like in the first episode of the cartoon, is the abandoned Decepticon siege mode armature.
See, now that would have been that would have worked. That would have been interesting.
And then, my pitch was that the Visionaries invade Cybertron. From like, your issue 1 ends with Merklin unveils this space bridge that he has used magic to get working again, and he opens a portal. And yes, Visionaries, it's time for you to go forth and take our revenge on the machines that like ruined our planet. Yeah.
But like, I still like. I feel like, there could be other ways that you could do this, like the Transformers. Like, the idea is one that, like, even on the, like, I know a lot of people like were really hating on this from the very inception. I think the inception is a brilliant concept. Magic, I mean, it boils down to a magic versus technology thing, and it puts us, it puts us, with two franchises that are, kind of deal with transformation and all that. I think there's a lot there that conceptually, could really turn out a great story, but it doesn't really do anything new or interesting. And I think what you just said with basically saying that Viralina and the Prismosians are like Joe Colton, that's a great way to put it, because it's like, Viralina and having organics who are prejudiced against Transformers because they're just technology is not really that new of an idea in the IDW continuity, especially not after First Strike. First Strike flipped things on its head by making it by making, first of all, the group of humans a literal supervillain team, and B, by having them invade Cybertron, which so far only has ever really happened in the Scioli run, as far as like an actual planned mounted invasion of Cybertron. But that's the thing, this really doesn't do anything that different or interesting compared to other crossovers, or even just other stories in the Transformers like IDW universe. Like, even ROM had some unique and brought stuff, new stuff to the table in ROM versus Visionaries, or not ROM versus Transformers. Now, ROM versus Visionaries, maybe that could have had some merit, but...
See, that's the thing. Like, Knights, they're all Knights, that works.
Boom, yeah, Space Knights versus Spectral Knights.
I was going to say, like, you've got sort of, like, Tech Knights versus Magic Knights. That's a thing, yeah.
Boom, and then that's how you get the Series 2 Visionaries in there, who were supposed to be all magic and whatnot. But, there's just... it's just... It's a mediocre series that could have done something really cool and brought a whole like new level to this universe. Yet sadly, it's not even getting it even wouldn't have really even gotten the chance to do much of that now. So it's just kind of a mediocre series at best.
Yeah, it's sort of. Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not sort of doing anything to really distinguish itself either.
Yeah. So, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Alright. Let's talk ROM.
Yes. So, the other kind of actual comic release for this fortnight has been... the one-shot is titled ROM Tales of the Soul Star Order, and it collects the Battle Scars backup story that was originally published in ROM 11 to 14 with bonus material.
Yeah. So now we've already talked about this story, but I'm interested to get your opinion, kind of rereading this, kind of reevaluating. I'm interested to get a second opinion, Callum, on Battle Scars. What do you think that, like, for you specifically, did the collection kind of, did it flow better as a single like standalone story as opposed to like the backups? What was your kind of thought on that?
I think kind of. I don't know if I could sort of say one is better than the other, but it kind of it reads very nicely as kind of a single issue, and like you can kind of tell where the kind of the cliffhangers are still. It's not obvious, but yeah, kind of it reads nicely in this format, and kind of it makes it something that you could tell someone to pick up as sort of an IDW ROM taster, which is quite nice, I feel. And because the full story is 18 pages, which I kind of forgot because the last ROM 14, this took up like 6 pages out of the 20, which we've talked a lot about how incredibly compromised that arc of ROM was by losing half its pages to this backup story. But the backup story in its own right is sort of it's a nice little story. It's a little sort of formative moment for ROM.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I definitely like. Part of me does kind of like. I wouldn't. I'm like, yeah. Let me figure out words. I wouldn't say that it necessarily read better, especially because like I could see where the obvious this was scripted to be the stop, like the end of the backup story, which is like with the whole like, and you could always tell because it was always the one, the big splash pages. That you could kind of tell, but really I did really enjoy rereading this story and kind of this as a taste test, as you said. I feel like that's a really good way to really good purpose for this book. So really
here is a test for you then. If someone was reading IDW for the ROM for the first time, would you recommend that they read Battle Scars all in one go, either before or after 11 to 14's kind of main stories, or would you recommend them read it in the 4 parts, in the 4 issues?
I would probably say read the one-shot collected version, especially because admittedly I don't have the 3rd volume's trade, so I don't know how it gets collected in the trade. But if I think assuming that it did not get reprinted or whatever, or say they picked up the first 2 volumes and then saw this on a shelf, I'd say this is not, I guess it's not really a great intro story for ROM. There are other better like Earthfall, like the Origin annual. There are some better, or even ROM vs. Transformers.
I was going to say, I feel like kind of a good kind of IDW ROM, the ROM annual, ROM vs. Transformers, and this would make quite a good sort of IDW ROM kind of starter kit. In that kind of, you kind of start from the beginning, and it sets up the character, and then you could then tell them to pretty much just go read through the ongoing then in order. And then Revolution, ROM Revolution. But no, you couldn't really. You couldn't. I mean, I feel like this would be this story would be like, some of its meaning is lost if you haven't read the annual and don't then have that grounding for Rob and Phylar's friendship, I guess.
I feel like definitely having read reading the annual is definitely a big thing. But this story really does inform the 3rd, the Long Roads to Ruin, with Darby and Rowan and his whole thing. So, actually, that's the thing.
is this backup story better than the main story for the third arc of Wrong? I'd argue that it potentially is.
I mean, I'd agree with you there on
that. It was so compromised, that third arc. But yeah, we have talked about that already.
Yeah. See, now what I'm doing is I'm honestly looking it up on Amazon just to see if the actual third trade collects any parts of the backup, but I'm not sure.
They ought to, surely.
Yeah, I mean they should, but.
No, yeah, it's in there. I'm looking at the inside cover on the preview of the trade paperback. It's in the third trade.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing probably at the back, collected all in one go at the back. Well, I'd guess. It would be super weird if it wasn't, I'll put it that way.
Which, honestly, though, now that just kind of makes me wonder, what exactly was the point of releasing this as, like, a one-shot? Like, other than just to get people who... I mean, I guess the appeal would just be to, like, someone who's curious about ROM, but again, it's like, this is not the best, part of this story really works better because it's informed by what we see in the ROM annual, so...
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying that it's like... It's kind of unintentionally made me start questioning its existence.
It's like, it's basically sort of... It's like when they did, like, a special edition or, like, director's cut or something silly. They called it a Spotlight Drift a while ago. There was just the issue with, like, an interview and some covers in the back. It's like, it's a thing that mostly exists just to be a thing to sell because it's sort of kind of accessible and potentially appealing to people who haven't read the other stuff. Because, like, I assume, because it's got the Self-Seamer inks, like, part of it, I guess, yes, a person who hasn't read IDW ROM, but read Marvel ROMs, it's Self-Seamer doing inks on it, I'll pick that up and have a look. And then maybe they want to read some more IDW ROM, and they go buy some print paperbacks. And, it's sort of... there's not that much of a good reason for this collection, but it's just a thing to sell and maybe get some people to buy some trade paperbacks, I figure.
Yeah.
And the bonus material's kind of neat. There's 20 pages, and we get the kind of script / kind of plot and uncoloured inks for, I think it's like the first half it's the first two, like, parts.
Yeah. Well, I think those were just the pencils. I don't think those were the inks, but...
Wait, isn't it? No, I'm sure this is... It's inked, isn't it? It's like, it's in like, marker. Like, I don't know if it's... Like, they're amazingly defined pencils, if it's pencils. I don't know, maybe it's, maybe it's pencils with just sort of, like, marker.
Okay, yeah, like, well, the cover, that's definitely inked, but looking at the actual pages, well...
Yeah, no, maybe it's pencils with kind of marker for, like, because a lot of the kind of black space
for some shading.
Marker.
But yeah,
no, maybe it is just pencils.
Yeah, but... oh, no, but wait,
at the top it's got pencil and ink signed.
Okay, yeah, that's... Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, no, you're right. It is inks. I'm an idiot.
Cool.
But yeah, and I will say it is really cool getting to see that that stuff. And I really did like the interviews with the interviews with Guy Dorian and Sal Buscema, as much as they weren't kind of.
One thing I will say about this bonus content is that seeing the uncoloured inks really made me appreciate what a really fantastic job Alessandra Alexakis did colouring this. Because a lot of the time, when you see kind of like modern colouring of kind of like quote-unquote retro comic art, it looks really weird and kind of not very appealing. Like those Walt Simonson Thor panels you were posting on Twitter the other week.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a generic kind of like gradient shading on this really sort of bold kind of old-fashioned kind of inking, and it looks kind of weird and unappealing. But the colours on this story look fantastic. Like, I think the thing that really makes it is the fact that the inks have been coloured. Like, the inks are tinted kind of appropriate colours, and it really looks good. Like, it is still kind of the artist still has that kind of recognisably sort of like slightly old-fashioned feel, but the colours really complement it rather than looking kind of at odds with the style of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I like. That's something that I was saying back when we first talked about this. The coloring is it fills that retro style, but not in an ugly way. Yeah, it is really a testament, and it's so different. It's like, that's the thing. The fact that it's the same person who did the main story gave these colors such a different feel, and part of that, that was definitely the different style with Dorian and Buscema, but it gave it just such a like great like different look, and it looks amazing. Love it.
But no, just seeing kind of the uncolored inks really made me kind of appreciate sort of kind of what the colors brought to that art, and it's really impressive.
Yeah. So.
Well, actually, here's a random, like a really stupid question that popped into my head reading this. When is the one panel set on modern day Earth? When does that fall relative to the other issues of ROM? It's labelled as Earth before, so does that mean that one panel is set sometime before ROM 11? I guess, but when ROM's on his own. But yeah.
Well, Well,
and it's the anniversary of Phylar's death, but there's no date for that. So yeah. I guess probably at some point. I guess maybe. No, I don't know. There's not really any like spare time almost in the first arc where like Rom is just sort of on his own flying around. Is there? I don't know.
So it's got to be kind of around Revolution.
Yeah, maybe it's while he's hunting Joe Colton.
Yeah, around Revolution time. That would make sense. I mean, it would explain why he's thinking about being alone, and it's before Livia and Orpheon arrive.
Just Ron being lonely loner, lonely friend.
Lonely loner, sad cyborg man.
Oh no, it's an episode of the IT Crowd I'm thinking of. Lonely loner.
I have not watched the IT Crowd.
Oh, it's good.
Because
there is an episode in which one of the characters makes a deliberately bad, makes a dating profile for a deliberately terrible sounding guy in order to prove that women want bastards, and he ends up having to go on a date and pretend to be an awful bastard, but is really terrible at pretending to be an awful bastard.
Decent release. Kind of allowed us to revisit a story. What?
I was gonna say, what was the cover price for this in US dollars? Oh no, because you don't see the cover price on the digital cover.
Let's see, what was it? Because I just was pre-order it, so $4.99.
Oh, okay, so that's
it's $1 more than usual.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of pages, that's sort of reasonable value, but the extra pages aren't new.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like not an annual, because annuals are like usually like a lot thicker and
Yeah.
and have like and they're like $7.99. So this is more like a special kind of thing. So boom, charge an extra $1 for it.
Yeah, well, it's, I guess, 2 fewer pages of like actual comic interiors art than normal, but you get 20 pages of bonus material. So it's, yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so like maybe, I guess, yeah, you could pick it up if I don't know. Yeah, I'm not convinced it would be a great first issue of ROM for IDW ROM for someone who wanted to then go on and read the rest of IDW ROM.
Yeah, it really is like a good that's the thing, and I wish if they were gonna do this, they would have like at least done more than like one issue, especially with it being a story that we already saw in backups. Like that's the thing. I really wanted there to be more Tales of the Soulstar Order rather than just the Battlescar story. Don't get me wrong, Battlescars is a good story, but it's like I feel like there's a lot more that like we could have seen, and that I would have wanted, especially now that we know that the universe is ending.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean you'd assume that there would have been more of these had the series kept going on under that same ongoing title, but then equally, were they actually planning to like have sort of 16-page main stories going forward? Because like
I
don't know, it's weird.
But yeah, so
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I was gonna say like almost sort of a good ROMs like a starter pack kind of would be the annual plus this, but that would be a really weird price point / like
yeah. I mean, it's not like you could really put that in a trade, and
it's like at least one issue too thin to be a trade.
Yeah.
Like this,
Admittedly,
actually,
you could.
Wait, there are 3-issue trades for some stuff recently, aren't there?
Yeah, or you could pack it in with. Theoretically, you could pack it in with Earthfall and call it like ROM the Beginning or something.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already doing that ROM Cold Fire Hot War trade paperback thing that's going to collect like the entirety of the series, with the exception of ROM and the Micronauts.
I've just been calling it the Romnibus. But yeah, no,
I like that better.
Yeah, no, it's or
the Romnibus.
There was another pun I came up with for it, but I've forgotten now. No, but what's it? Cold Fire Hot War, did you say?
Yeah, that's the official title.
That's interesting.
Don't ask me. I'm not the marketing guy at IDW. If I was, I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast. That was a bad joke.
But because I guess Cold Fire was the title of the annual. But
yeah,
that's weird.
Well, I guess it's like it's not a Cold War; it's a Hot War. I don't know.
But I don't know. I still find it's weird that they're doing that though, because it's sort of here have 75% of the ongoing IDW ROM story.
Well, the fact that they're doing the same thing for Micronauts is kind of like it's one of those things. Like, I guess the idea is put out this whole collection of the quote unquote ROM solo stuff. Put out the whole collection of Micronauts solo stuff, and then
now by Rob and the Micronauts. That's going to be finished by the time these are out. So it's not instant now. But.
Yeah, well, and then the trade will be out for Rob and the Micronauts. So then, boom, then you get the people who read all of ROM and then are now well, now I want to have the background for the Micronauts. So now, boom, they go out and buy that. So it's like it's like a triangle, It's like have these, have these two lead to this one that then results in people having to go back and read the other, for whatever series they weren't interested in.
Yeah, I suppose.
Theoretically, theoretically, that's really the only real reason I could think why they're doing that for both ROM and the Micronauts, and then they don't want to put ROM and the Micronauts in two different trades.
I mean, you shouldn't, because it's ROM and the Micronauts is ROM guest starring the Micronauts.
It is, but still, the fact that the Micronauts are there, they want to advertise it to the Micronauts fans,
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I am sure that, look, I am someone who's a huge fan of the Marvel ROM series, but never read, still has not read a single issue of Marvel Micronauts. I am sure there are people out there who are the exact opposite of me. Don't care about ROM, or never cared about ROM, but love the Micronauts, and are gonna read the IDW Micronauts, and are then gonna go back and read ROM for ROM Micronauts.
It just bugs me that there's going to be a Cullen Bunn's complete Micronauts, and then 75% of Gage and Ryle's ROM.
Don't get me wrong, I'm with you, but
I've also just realised that the Micronauts one is called Micronauts Into the Microspace, which is not a way that microspace has ever been referred to in the comics.
Well, it's clear that they wanted to call it Into the Microverse, but that's what the Marvel version is called, so
no one calls it the microspace. That's not a thing.
No, it's just Into Microspace, but
I guess that will mean that the Micronauts annual finally gets collected in something.
Yeah.
But it would. Well, no, I guess that ROM, the Romnibus's existence does kind of preclude them subsequently doing a complete IDW ROM that includes and the Micronauts.
Well, it might. They might still do that, and that annual that may or may not be happening. That we're still kind of.
Oh, actually, there's some kind of news. Chris Ryle mentioned writing for a quote-unquote final ROM story recently that apparently homages the second Marvel ROM annual.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some more evidence.
Yeah, which I'm interested to see what he means by that. Because the second Marvel ROM annual, its whole story was basically about ROM trying to destroy the Dire Wraith homeworld, and him getting captured, and some of the other Space Knights having to come and help him out. So I'm interested if it means in plot wise, or if there's just going to be a visual throwback or something in some of the pages. We'll see.
Yeah, because wait, did I think I might have looked that up on the Marvel Wikia or something. Was it a flashback set just after the Wraiths attacked Galadriel, whatever it is.
Galador,
that's it. Galadriel's a visionary, isn't she?
Yeah, it was a flashback story that focused on ROM following a Dire Wraith ship back to the home world, if I'm remembering this right, back to Wraith World, and then some of the other Space Knights, Rock and some of the others having to help him out.
Because and I was just thinking, I do wonder if it might potentially tie into the stuff. Tie into the fact that Elonia is appearing and potentially going to get eaten in the Unicron story. Could it be because I assume there is not going to be a whole lot of time for ROM to be doing any reacting to that in Transformers Unicron. So could the ROM annual be Rom's reaction basically to Alonia maybe getting eaten.
Yeah, kind of a non-branded but basically Unicron tie-in.
Yeah, kind of.
I could see that.
Because that would be think about it. That would be kind of weird if if Alonia gets eaten and then Rom doesn't really get any page space to react to that in any significant way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Zero issue, but
it's getting eaten. It's getting eaten, and Unicron is.
Oh yeah, it's getting eaten. I'm with you there. You know what would be a really interesting spin on Unicron is if it's because he eats Alonia that allows him to assume the humanoid form.
Yeah.
Because of the ore or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah. But, Unicron just sort of... This whole thing of Unicron gets... is the sum of... Unicron is what he eats. Because that implies that Unicron is going to have, Space Knight armor powers and also time travel powers, right off the bat. Well, I guess technically from Unicron's point of view, he may not have eaten LV-117 yet. Because time travel.
Time
actually, yeah,
is all things.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, I do wonder if we'll see that in Unicron, whether we'll see him eating LV-117 from, his point of view.
Yeah, we will,
we'll
see.
Oh, maybe, no. Wait, because who's... No, there's not really anyone... No, Varta got killed, and then all the other characters, escaped, don't they? So there's not any characters you can sort of pluck from the pages of Syndromica 2 to come hang out with everyone else's then.
No.
But, yeah, no, so yeah, Rom Annual 2018, still a mystery, but yeah. Some more evidence now. I can't think what else... Well, I mean, if Chris Ryall has written some more Rom recently, that kind of means there has to be something after Rom and the Micronauts, and we have a convenient thing that's potentially going to come out after Rom and the Micronauts. So, yeah.
I mean, we're still waiting on July solicitations and all that. So
yeah, I feel that they will be illuminating. I feel.
All right, Callum. Before we say where people can find us on the social medias and all that, tell me. What are the next comics? What's next week's comics?
So the next 2 weeks, on the 11th we have Rom and the Micronauts number 4, titled Asymmetric Warfare, which is it's because some of them are small and some of them are not. It's puns. It's fun. And Optimus Prime number 17 the week after, which is part 3 of The Falling. Yeah, no, and I feel like the next few weeks off are possibly getting. Oh, okay, no, yeah, the next fortnight is 3. Actually, yeah, Optimus Prime is possibly releasing 2 issues weekly. The March issue is super late, but we are on the 18th. But then we are potentially getting issue 17 the week afterwards, which yeah, you really can't slip behind now, guys, if you're intending to double ship all through the summer.
Yeah, we will see what happens with that.
Can you make it to the end of the universe without shipping numbered issues of the same series out of order? Come on, guys, you can make it. Don't cross that final line that you haven't yet crossed.
Yes. So that just about brings this episode to a close. Thank you so much for listening, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary folks. If you want to continue to listen to more episodes, you can, of course, find us on our Libsyn page at hasbrouniverse.libsyn.com. You can find us wherever you find podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a review. That's one of the best ways you can help us out. You can find us on I'm not actually sure if we're on Stitcher. I can't remember. I know we're on TuneIn, so you can have your Alexa play us. We're generally around Google Play, YouTube, all kinds of places. And of course, you can continue to follow us on social media we're on Twitter at HasbroU Podcast. We're on Tumblr at HasbroUniversePodcast.tumblr.com. And we are, of course, hosted by the awesome team over at allspark.com, where you can find our forum threads, and you can join us for the latest discussion of all the Hasbro Universe comics. Callum, where can the people find more of you on the internet?
I can be found on Twitter, Tumblr, Allspark, TFWiki, ITW Hasbro Wiki, all your sort of your places and websites that you'd expect, under the username Jala Guy, Jala Guy, where what sort of content can this weekend I've been tweeting video game item maps that I have made for myself because I got annoyed that there were only YouTube videos. Like, it made me feel so old when I went looking for item maps but could only find YouTube videos. So I paused the YouTube video when they were showing the map screen for like 2 seconds, and I made one myself. And then I tweeted it to myself because that was the fastest way to get it on my phone.
Damn kids these days, no respect for the classic way of doing maps.
I've got just a static image map, and then a walkthrough that's plain text with like an ASCII image of the game's logo at the start of it. That's how you find stuff in a video game.
Oh yeah, that's how I got through Pokemon back in the day.
It's not a video game walkthrough if it doesn't have the game's logo as a big ASCII thing at the start of the walkthrough.
See.
So yeah, that's the kind of content you can expect from me. And so I was gonna say sometimes I talk about IDW, that sort of stuff. I talk about it a lot. It's fine.
Yes,
I can be on brand.
You'd think that you'd be sick of it after talking about it with me for every 2 weeks for almost a year at this point. Because let me tell you, folks, we're on episode 24. 24.
So yeah, in some ways it feels like it's been more, it feels weird to think that
it does feel like it's been more than a year.
It was only a year ago. Not so much that we've been doing it for a year, but more that just the books that were coming out a year ago. It seems longer than a year. Our first episode, we were talking about Revolutionaries 4, weren't we?
Yeah.
That was less than a year ago. That's weird to think.
Yeah. It just goes to show, all that's happened at that time. And to be fair, we before we started the podcast, there was at least half a year's worth of material, just through Allspark and with the Revolution and all that, because we started the podcast at least half a year after all that. So
yeah.
So that's the thing. So you and I had still conversed about stuff, before that. We'll do something special for our 1 year anniversary. I'm sure we'll figure it out.
It's also just occurred to me that I'm thinking Revolutionaries 4. That's 4 months after Revolution ended, but that's not the case at all.
Oh no!
Revolutionaries was so late to the time.
Yeah. Anyways, if you want to find more of me on the internet, you can pretty much find me at Twitter at Daniel Adkins PRD. Although I've been thinking of changing that since I realized, that PRD really does not communicate very that doesn't communicate very well. So I'm trying to think of something snappier. It's Daniel Adkins is just a surprisingly very common name, and I'm a little disappointed by that, quite frankly.
It's weird to me. I wouldn't have thought Adkins was that common a surname.
Oh yeah. Well, especially I was surprised, especially let alone ADKINS, but you add in the ATKINS or the Atkins son. That's when then you would. Yeah, I numerous times have I had to correct people on how my last name is spelled. But yeah, that's generally where you can find me. I'm also on the Allspark. I'm on the IDW Hasbro Wiki at times, usually just making small edits. Because, I'm a university student. I have lots of things to do, like go make a short film today. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Action and Adventure.
Oh, actually, yeah, before we end, one last check of the IDW news page, and no additional press releases. So
Yeah.
clearly nothing shot. If they did announce anything about Unicron, it was clearly not shocking enough to get its own press release.
Yep. So, thank you very much, and we will see you all next time. Take care.
Yeah.
This is Rom, the Space Knight. You can imagine he comes from another galaxy with his flashing neutralizer. Activate Rom. You can imagine he has rockets to blast into space and a translator that communicates with lights and sounds. You can even imagine his respirator lets him breathe in any atmosphere. Rom comes with the 3 plug-in accessories shown. 9-volt battery not included. Rom, the Space Knight, an electronic toy new from Parker Brothers.